Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. I'm super excited to have Prosper here today. Prosper is one of the OGs, like we always say. But this is a very good one today. I'm sure it's going to be very amazing. You're welcome to the Flutterwave Engineering webinar, where we discuss all things engineering. So we talk about, career stuff, talk about the things that we do internally on the engineering team here at Flutterwave. And we also try to answer questions for people who have issues. I'm going to lay some ground rules. So while we wait for other people to join, it's 102, so we'll give them till 105. While we wait for other people to join, I'm going to lay, some ground rules, and of course, maybe I'll do a reminder again sometime later during the webinar. So please, if you look down, if you're using your laptop, you probably look down, you see the bottom, you see, different items, but you see a Q&A box. So if you have questions, which I expect you to have during the course of this webinar, when you have questions, just use the Q&A function at the bottom, right? If you want to chat, you can of course use the normal chat function at the bottom. But strictly for Q&A, you use the Q&A box. For the chats, also be careful to know who you're sending your messages to when you're on the chat, right? So you can either send to host and panelists or to everyone. So if you want the message to go to everyone, please select everyone. And if you want your message to go to just the host and the panelists, you can also do that there. All right. And finally, we'll attend to all questions at the very end of this webinar. So we have the introductory session, which is what I'm doing now. Then we have the main session, which is where Prosper will be talking and be sharing the valuable tips that he has for us today. Then we have the Q&A function, Q&A section at the very end. All right, so please, if you have questions, just put it. We'll find it. We'll see it when it's time for questions. Don't forget, put your questions in the Q&A box, the Q&A function. All right, and finally, let's be respectful of everyone. So in your comment, whatever you're saying, try to be as respectful as possible. Do not insult anyone, and don't, let's be human. All right. So yeah, that's it. And I'm excited to have Prosper today as our guest. Prosper will be sharing valuable tips on career growth for software engineers, right? What are those things that you need to do as an engineer to grow in your career? Where do you start from? What do you focus on? Are you more focused on the kind of stacks that you want to do? Or are you more focused on, your stacks, or more focused on, backend, frontend, all of those things? Prosper will be sharing a lot of insight from his years of experience. Prosper is the CTO and co-founder at Eden Life. And prior to that, he was just basically, doing all things engineering, from instructing, teaching, training, to, being an engineering leader. All right. So if you are familiar with Andela, Prosper was one of the first set of trainers at Andela way back in 2014, 2015, thereabouts. So he has wealth of experience to share with us today. So please listen, have your questions. I'm sure you're going to have a very, very wonderful time. So over to you, Prosper. Introduce yourself and let's kick on.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. I'm here again. Thank you, Rotimi, for inviting me. It's been long I gave this kind of talk because I've just been very busy with a lot of things. And I just like to learn a lot from people rather than talking these days. But here we'll be talking about growing your career as a software engineer. And then as we get into it, I'm just going to introduce myself a bit for some people that might not know my name or where I'm coming from or what I do currently. Yeah, so here, co-founded a company called Eden Life. Eden is a company based in Lagos. That the mission is to 10x the quality of life in Africa. So food, laundry, cleaning, just imagine your whole life on autopilot, basically, just being run by a service where you don't have to think about it. That's what Eden does. So I co-founded that company and also lead engineering there. I'm an open sourcer. What that simply means is I contribute a lot to open source code. I've created packages and modules of my own. I've also contributed to tons of open source packages in the world. Then I'm also a developer advocate. I think if you have followed me for a while now, you will know that that is very true. I love developers a lot. I love talking to developers. I also love building communities. I've built some communities over the years. Follow Africa that you all know, some Laravel community, PHP, and all of that. I love jollof rice. If you want to know more about that, sign up on Eden. You will experience what I experience on a daily basis. I'm also a GitHub star. GitHub recognizes me as one of the stars in the world as a developer. And then also, I like to call myself a baby investor. Recently, I found a new passion of investing in companies, technology companies across the world. So I do that like currently. I'm super excited, so as you can see. And so let's start with the beginning. So developing is a lot like cooking, basically. So if you can cook, I think you can build software. And it's crazy because when I look at cooking, right? Cooking, people will pick, like, there are two ends to this. People will just be like, well, it's not just software, we'll just build it. And then there's the part where you're cooking. So if you're cooking jollof rice or you're cooking okra soup, egusi, I don't know what your favorite is. You have, the list of ingredients that you're going to gather together, right? And then put them in a pot. And then that you have to put them like after some time, oh, you put this here, you put pepper, you put this other one. And then after some time too, you wait for like 5 minutes, you wait for 10 minutes, you stay at this particular point in time. And then you do all of that, right? Till you get to the end result, which is the cooked jollof rice, right? But if there is anything I know about cooking, is there are good days and there are bad days, right? So as if you are growing in your career as a software engineer, there will always be the bad days and the good days. The good days are where you are going to cook. You build something great and then you admire what you have been like, damn, I really did something here. And then there will be times where you will be knocked to the ground, right? And it's perfectly normal, right? It's not a bad thing, because no matter how many times you cook jollof rice too, right? Sometimes you cook jollof rice, no matter how many times you've done it, it still turns out bad. And you're like, but I followed all the instructions. I did everything. Like, why did it burn? Or why is it tasting like this, right? Or sometimes maybe you go home and somebody cooks for you, the same person that's been cooking for you, maybe like a mom or something, and you're like, but Momsi can cook this thing now. So why is it tasting like this? It's just that sometimes that's the way it is, right? Sometimes you do everything right and then things just break. So it's perfectly normal. So if you're experiencing this right now, just be confident that you're not the only one. All of us are in the same bracket. But some of the things I will just say today will just help you to build more confidence as you grow your career as a software engineer. So one, technical skills, right? I said excellent technical skills here, but when you start your career as a software engineer, most times this is not where you are, or this is not, it takes time to get to this point, right? And technical skills, I'm going to talk about 3 things that you can do to build your technical skills a lot, right? So number 1, business domain knowledge, very critical. So as a software engineer, you can start from any industry. Sometimes you might start from, the compiler industry. So maybe you work for a company where they are building developer tools. So you have to deal with compilers, you have to deal with like abstract syntax tree, right? That's a whole different ball game from building software for consumers, right? So at the end of the day, the domain knowledge of whatever industry you find yourself, right? Maybe you find yourself building, video calling apps, or you just find yourself building fintech apps, right? One of the things I've seen over time, from personal experience and from talking with senior engineers over time, is many of the people I find attractive, or many of the people other people find attractive as excellent software engineers, are people that have built like technical muscle in a particular domain knowledge, right? So generally they can code, like they understand the fundamentals, they've learned the fundamentals very well, right? And when we're talking about fundamentals, we're talking about, like, of course, you understand how, you understand control structures, you understand like maybe caching, you understand end-to-end testing, how you can go about that. You understand, maybe if you're a backend developer, you understand how to work with a lot of data, right? Those are the fundamentals that you need to know, right? But apart from that too, you need to understand, like, have business domain knowledge. And the reason why I say this is A very good example would be if you wanted to build a company, a new fintech company, right? Most of the engineers you would hire, or most of the senior engineers or team leads you hire at the beginning will be people that have built business domain knowledge in fintech, right? Because fintech has its own unique set of problems that if you bring a software engineer from like someone that's building like video apps or video games or something, he might not really understand like, oh, these are the things, these are different types of like race condition experiences or whatever that happens when you're building fintech apps where tons of people are interacting with the database at the same time, right? Or if you're even hiring front-end engineers, they understand the flow already. They understand that like when people are interacting with fintech apps, this is literally the common problems to experience, or this is how people like interact with like, input fields, or this is how people try to view their wallets and their wallet balances. So if you're building a very good front end for this kind of folks, these are the kind of things you need to keep in mind, because you are going to come across these things later at the end of the day, right? So it's great to always build business domain knowledge, because the business domain knowledge will be when you move from companies to companies, it just helps you, like, it helps you grow in your career, right? In each of those companies, because every company has their own ladder, for evaluating engineers of all levels. So that's very critical. Reverse engineering too allows you to build excellent technical skills, and I'll explain how. So for reverse engineering is simple. So you see some of the tools you use every day, right? For example, maybe use Laravel as a framework, or you use Node.js, or there's a particular tool that you use. One of the ways to ramp up, like, what do you call it? One of the ways to ramp up your technical skills is to look at that stuff and say, hey, how do I build a mini version of Laravel? And that sounds very Herculean, all right? Or if you're a front-end developer, like, I know we use React, we use Vue.js, all right? Which is great. I understand how Vue.js works. I understand how to call the API, but how can I build a mini version of Vue.js? Or how can I build a mini version of React, right? And when you learn how to build the fundamentals of these things, when you learn how to reverse engineer this framework or these tools to understand how it's being built, sometimes just read the source code, right? You keep on doing that. There are some tutorials too. There are some technically deep tutorials that you can see on YouTube that shows you how those things are being built. So when you go through building them from scratch, one after the other, you find yourself understanding more things that you know, right? And these are some of the things that will not be very useful. In fact, some of the people that I've seen contribute to React, Vue.js, and some of those frameworks that some of these people too were core contributors to jQuery, or these are people that just like took time to understand how jQuery came about. Like, how do you build, jQuery? How did this guy come up with these APIs? I can't remember his name. I was a popular creator of jQuery. I can't remember his name, but they took time to go through all of these things. So when it was time for them to, like, build something for the modern age, or something that will be, better according to the way they are thinking about it, that experience just helps them to build something solid, right? So it's always very good to reverse engineer. If you're a mobile developer,
is that John Resig?
Yeah, John Resig, exactly. John Resig. Yeah, I forgot his name for a moment. John, thank you. So even mobile engineers, I've seen mobile engineers, like, you're learning, and then you see a very beautiful app. You probably don't have access to the source code. You just look for a way to, like, reverse engineer. Like, how does this thing work? Like, how are these classes built? How does it work on a machine, right? So I'm not saying you should hack people's apps or stuff. Please don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you see the end of something, try to walk back from that end. Like, how do I walk back from the end to the beginning, right? What's happening there? How do I go about it? The more you do that, the more you just see yourself automatically ramping up on the technical skills that you need to succeed in your career. So that's one about technical skills. Number two is build many things. The best developers are people that have built a lot of things, right? Make a lot of mistakes early. One of the arguments I've seen is, well, I don't have time to build many things. I'm working, right? But even in the places where you're working to, you build things, right? And what I've seen in people that are able to, like, get promoted faster within organizations are people that, apart from what they are building, they're also building things to, how do I explain this? So they are, maybe, for example, you join a team of 50 developers, right? So you see how the process is currently. You see how people are building. You look at your process flow. You look at how people are submitting pull requests. You look at the developer experience of how, of how you guys are working. Some of the best developers I've seen come into those kind of environments, and build other things within the environment to support the developer experience of how developers are building products, even within the company. So you come here, you see that there are 10 steps we take, for this build to be correct, to make sense, or for this thing to be shipped. And then you find a way to build something that reduces that into like 1 step or 2 steps, right? Or you find a way to build something that increases the testing experience, right, for your developers. So as you're building that too, it helps you ramp up on like, different things like, oh, I don't understand how this works. Like, let me learn it. And then you learn it, then you build. And then building that to just 10x's everybody's experience on that team. So if everybody has been following a particular approach to, based on the way the company has recommended, you come in there and you change the system to something that is like just easy, faster, better. It helps you grow too, right? Apart from growing technically, it also helps you in promotions, right? Because now people can point, your engineering manager, your leaders can point to like, hey, this is what this person has been able to do over time. This person has saved us this amount of dollars, in Amazon, bills, or this person has come up with this stuff that we don't need to pay for, or this person has come up with this particular tool that's helped improve the developer experience of all the 20 developers that we have, right? Like in the company. So build as many things as possible within the company. Build even outside of the company. Maybe during your free time. Just find time. You don't have to like put a strict deadline of what you're building. You can space it out so you don't get burnt out, because I'm a big advocate of just like, of course, enjoying your weekends and enjoying your free time. But right, like just tell yourself, okay, I know how databases work. What if I want to build my own database, right? Or what if I want to build my own compiler? How do I go about it? So build as many things as possible. You can just be going in the train, right? Like, what would it take for me to build like a train management system, something that can work with like, biometrics, that will make it easier. And then you find yourself learning something new. So build as many things as possible, right? The people with the most experience are the people that have failed in so many things that they've built. So when they tell you, hey, this is what's happening right now, they can look at the system and say, I think I know why this thing is failing, or I think I know why this system is regressive. It's because of this and this and this. And that's just because they've built so many things in the past, right? So they somehow have come across something like this before, or they remember that they had an issue when they were pairing with somebody before, or they were working in a company and this was the particular issue, or they were working on an open source project and they've come across this issue before. So build as many things as possible. Number 3, right? Initially, I put run a blog here, but I discovered that many people do not have the time to do a blog. So it can be run a blog, it can be write, right? And as long as you're writing, and this is the reason why I say write. Write gives you clarity to your thoughts, right? And the way I've seen people grow in their career as developers is there are people that can, like, there are 2 types of engineers. There are engineers that are very technical and can build without like, you just need to give them the environment. Like, oh, this is what we need to build. They go ahead and build it, right? But it is hard for them to carry people along. So they know what to build, they know what to do, and they go ahead and do it, right? And there are engineers where they understand the technical domain of what they are trying to do. They can come up with the architecture, they can build it, right? But they have the ability to translate the requirements that they are thinking about in their head into something, either into a document, into an RFC, or into a note. And then other people can read that and understand what they're talking about, right? Like, okay, now I understand the system you're talking about, and like, this makes sense. Or we can revise and tweak these places and these places, and this will work for everybody, right? So the engineers I've seen that have the ability to do both are people that really like, they really just move up in their career, right? Because at the end of the day, these are the people that people either want to become engineering managers or people like bring to lead the teams, right? Because they can carry people along. They understand how to write in a way that the developers on the team will understand, and the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are either the chiefs in your companies or even the clients that you people are building for, they understand. So they serve as a bridge between both parties. So when they're talking to this other party, they're not talking technical jargon, right? Because they understand that that's not useful here. But when they're talking to developers, they understand the developers speak so well that even the developers on the team, if there is something that they don't understand, they refer back to this person like, hey, just talk to Rotimi, you will understand what he's saying. Or just go through this document, or even before, I don't know if you guys can still hear me. If you can hear me, let me know. So
I can hear you very well. You're clear. Very good.
Awesome. So, or even before you ask for anything, these folks have recorded a video, right? They've done a Loom video. They've shared it to the entire team. Like, oh, this is what I was thinking about, and this is a demo, and this is how I think we should work, right? So all of that thoughts about improving the system, they've been able to put it into a living document or into a living video that everybody can now run with, right? When you see people consistently do that, these are the people that you know you want to work with. These are the people that make development just really awesome, because now for every system they've built, for every system they've understand, they know how to translate what is in their head into repeatable videos and recordings and documents for even engineers that are coming ahead of them, right? So if somebody comes again and joins the system, you don't need to look for somebody. They just get onboarded through what this person has come up with, right? They know how to walk people through situations. So if you run a blog or you write, it allows you to put yourself in the mental state where you can take all those things that you know about building, and it forces you to bring clarity to your thoughts. Clarity to your thoughts of building, clarity to your thoughts of coming up with system designs, clarity to your thoughts of improving systems, system architecture, even algorithms, right? If you do lit code a lot, you discover that for you to solve lit code, most times you have to write out your thoughts, right? So they give you a traveling salesman's problem or something. Most times you don't just jump in. You sit down and write something like, okay, how do I approach this? Do I go through this? Do I use recursion here? Do I follow this approach? You kind of write it down in pseudocode and then use that to translate into code, right? So if you're not used to translating your thoughts somewhere else, like writing it down or just putting it somewhere where you can go through it, it will be harder for you to be better than what you are currently technically, right? So that's why I always advise people to run a blog. Run a blog, write frequently, write down your thoughts about certain things, and then it will just bring clarity to your thoughts as a developer. And when you have clarity to your thoughts as a developer, coupled with your technical abilities, it helps you grow faster in your career as a software developer. Well, I'm going to skip this slide for now. Yeah, this is why I put that slide, contribute to open source. Not everybody has the time to contribute to open source, but please, if you do, find a way to contribute to open source. And the reason why I put this here is an option for people that probably do not have maybe a lot of challenges, that they face within their normal day jobs. So if you're looking for something exciting, you're looking for something to try to grow your technical chops, contributing to an open source project will just help you, right? I've said this thing over and over again, so I don't think I need to dwell on this. And the reason why I've said this is because, again, because you're for open source simply means you're crowd sourcing ideas about certain things, right? So you have 100 people that have contributed to this project. Look at the individual intelligence of these 100 people, combine it together, and look at the result. It's the result that now you're playing with and you're learning with. So instead of you taking 100 books, 100 videos, and all of that, the fact that you have been able to go through this open source project, interact with these developers, interact with these designers, contribute, helps you learn what you could have learned in 2 months, in 1 month, or what am I saying, in 1 week itself, right? Because you're going to see a lot of different approaches that you've probably never seen in your life. And like, wow, so I can actually go through this way, or this is what I've been trying to deal with, right? In my code at work, or in my code that I'm doing personally, I'm doing this thing with 100 lines of code. And I'm coming here to see that it can be done with only 10 lines of code. Wow, right? So once you have that, then of course you're armed with that kind of knowledge for you to be able to use now in your project or in your code at work. So which is why it's also a good alternative. Like if you don't have the time, that's okay. But if you think you can like spend time, it will help you grow in your career as an engineer. So number 4, hi, on the shiny new stuff, hands on the practical. Now everybody's learning Web3. I'm sure we have tons of people learning Web3 here on this call. And also we have, I like to say that developers are just like very impatient set of people, including me, because we are always building new things. We are always reinventing the wheel, and there are always new tools that are coming out for the same thing, right? And that's what also makes the developers ecosystem very great, right? Because people are never satisfied. People are never just sitting on their ass, right? People are doing stuff. So if something is working, somebody's like, oh, this thing is really not fast enough, I'm just going to rebuild it. right? So they rebuild it and come up with something and announce to the world, and then new people too are working with it, right? Tomorrow somebody comes up and say, well, I'm not sure we like React again, let's come up with something else, right? Something that's faster and better, something that uses another approach, right? It's great, right? So for you to grow in your career, it's good for you not to just be stuck in your knowledge of, oh, this is the only thing I know, and this is the only thing I'm going to ever know, right? Because the developer world is crazy. It changes so often. We are all aware about that, right? So you don't have to learn a new tool completely. Play around with it, right? Oh, what's this new stuff people are talking about? People are talking about Vite. Let me see what they're talking about, right? People are talking about Next.js. Let me just see what it's about, right? Let me just play with it one weekend, right? Or people are talking about this new database, right? RocksDB. What's it about? How good is it, right? Compared to MySQL and Postgres, right? Let me play around with it. People are talking about this new code, as infrastructure, right? I've been used to Terraform, I've been used to this. Let me try Ansible. Let me try out this other stuff, right? And it just helps you, it just helps you stay sharp, right? Because you can need any of those tools at any point in time, right? Because you can be working on something, and one day in your day work or something, you guys might just need something very urgent. And then instead of implementing from scratch, because you have seen something like that before, you can literally just try it out and it will work. And it just be a stopgap for whatever you guys need to implement. And because you are able to come up with it, everybody in your team now regards you as like, okay, this person knows what he's doing. This person is like, this person is very fast in accomplishing things. That's because you've played around with something before, right? And then also, it's also easy for you to move on. When it's time for you to get on a new role, it's easy for you to learn fast, right? And once you also, like, for example, as Web3 is here now, you're like, okay, I'm not trying to delve into Web3, but I'm going to know what a MetaMask is. Let me just like find out what that means, right? Let me find out, let me see what smart contracts are. How does it work, right? How does this what's this new stuff they call DOA? How does it work, right? Let me just have an idea, like, of this tool, Solidity. Like, I'm not trying to learn it fully, but I'm just going to have an idea in my head. So maybe when the time comes, I'm not like, rusty and stuff like that. That also helps you grow in your career as a software engineer. So this is part of it, to be flexible in your hold on knowledge, because again, the developer world is moving so fast, very, very, very fast, right? The things we used to do 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there were times we used to use Mootools.js. I don't know if you use Mootools.js and you're in the audience, you can just like wink or just like say hi. So there are different tools we used to use then. Mootools.js, people used to use jQuery heavily. There are so many tools, like, right? Now, what we have now is React, Vue, Servlet, and all of these things. And then, of course, when you look at backend technologies now, more people are leaning towards Go. People are learning Rust, right? Even on the front end for JavaScript, people are trying to compile stuff into WebAssembly. Like, a lot of things are changing, right? So it can really be overwhelming. Like, it's normal. It can really be overwhelming. But one of the things you do for your career is to just be, you know what? I'm not going to be so, hard on myself and say this is the only thing I'm going to learn, right? If this thing does not look like what is going to take me into my goal for the next 5 years, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to learn something new, right? And I've seen this happen to founders a lot, right? Technical people, especially. You're a developer and somehow you find yourself building a startup. You have to learn many other things, right? Now you're learning about, like, finance, economics, saves, startups, employee pool, allocation, like different finance things. And you're like, what the hell? I just want to build, right? So you can just keep telling yourself that, or you can just go ahead and just be flexible in your hold on knowledge and say, what's it going to take to learn this thing anyway? So I'm just going to try, right? And if you learn it, you're going to be doing a great service to yourself, because you're not going to look like, you're not going to look like somebody that does not know anything at the end of the day, right? When people are talking about it, because like you're a founder, you're a co-founder, you're in your company, so you should know how these things work, right? And then also, if you're even still just a core tech person, even just within that line of work, you understand that, okay, I know this is what we are using currently, but I'm also learning about these things. And I've seen, or I've talked to other people in different companies, this is what they use. And I heard that these are the pros and cons of this, right? And I'm just going to try it later, right? It just simply means you're very expansible, right? In your knowledge. So it simply means even the people that entrust you with the work they entrust you with right now, in your company or whatever project you're working on, you can be rest assured that these people too entrust you with anything bigger than that current responsibility, right? Because they know that if they give you a current responsibility, you will grow to be able to fill in those shoes easily. So please be flexible in your hold of knowledge, and then that will help you greatly in growing your career as a software engineer. Soft skills. I think I've talked about this a few times in some of the conferences I've spoken at. I don't think I need to oversell this anymore. Soft skills are great because as developers, I know we can. Developers are, very proud people. We are very proud in our skill sets, and it can be a blessing and a curse.
Very, very true.
So a blessing, a blessing in the fact that people appreciate the work that you do. Like, people appreciate your confidence. People appreciate the fact that you can say you are going to do stuff and you're going to do it. Now, it's bad in the sense that, like, when things don't go as planned, you don't understand how to communicate with people. Like, hey, this is what is going wrong, right? And it's software. Every single time I say software is software, it will embarrass you. No matter what you put in place, things will still go wrong, right? What makes you an excellent software developer is the ability for you to calm people down when things go wrong, right? So things are going wrong, but in things that are going wrong, in your mind or in your spirit, soul, and body, you're like, I'm dying right now. Like, what the actual hell? But your demeanor, your composure outside there is like, okay, I think I know what's going wrong. This is what's happening right now. And all we need to do is just to do this and this and this. Like, I kid you not, right? When you work with people, I don't know, I mean, we are on a Flutterwave webinar, so I'm sure some money people know what I'm talking about. When things start to go wrong, when it feels like money is it's starting to miss, like, people will be on your head, right? Down from the top, from the CEO down, right? People are screaming. And especially as a team lead or as a senior developer or as a lead, it's very important that you understand how to communicate to the stakeholders that this is what is happening, right? This is what we did, or this is what we are currently doing to put the situation under control, right? And the only thing that will allow you to be able to go that far is if you understand the soft skills that you need to be able to do that, right? Also, when you're working with a team of developers, it's only soft skills that allow you to understand that, hey, we have committed to building this feature in like 1 week or 2 weeks, but for some reason, we are extending to 3 or 4 weeks, right? You're going to be able to understand from your own point of view, like, based from empathy, you can say, okay, this is the reason why this is happening right now, right? Or this is the reason why I think it's happening. And then you understand how to ask leading questions that will let other people understand what's happening together within the team, right? And then with these soft skills too, you can communicate to anybody. You can communicate to the product manager, you can communicate to even like a random customer, like, oh, okay, this how we work within the developer team, and this is the reason why you are seeing what you're seeing right now, or this is the reason why things are not this way, right? It helps you because at that point you cannot communicate in technology, right? Nobody's going to understand what you're saying, right? Your customers don't even care whether you're using PHP or you're using Node.js. Nobody cares. So you cannot come and be telling us, oh, the reason why it's failing is because Node.js is the asynchronous nature of blah blah. Nobody cares. People are just like, what the hell is this guy saying? What's this nonsense, right? So at the end of the day, you have to be able to communicate like, hey, we are hitting a snag here, or we have, we are really like running out of resources so fast, and which is what is making this particular part of like the app misbehave, or this was happening. And then people can really understand what you're saying, like, oh, okay, I think I understand what you mean. So soft skills, in your communication with your managers, it helps you. In your communication with your fellow teammates, it helps you. In your communication with your stakeholders, it helps you. In leading a team, in fact, that's the number one. When I see deep technical people move from being developers to engineering managers, to directors, to VP, what I see here is not just the technical ability, it's the ability of ridiculous soft skills, like an insane amount of soft skills that allow you move, because the higher you move, I think the less technical the role becomes, right? It now becomes more people-based, right? It now becomes the ability for you to come up with great strategy for the team. How do you measure performance? How do you talk to somebody that is down and like just get them excited about the work they're meant to do? How do you unblock people? You spend a lot of your time unblocking people. And if you don't have these soft skills, you cannot unblock somebody, right? You also cannot be seen as a teammate's favorite, right? That would just be wrong. You know, even though maybe in your mind, you know that this person is way better, but you can't be seen to be saying that, right? So it is your soft skills, your empathy, your diligence, your ability to calm people down, your ability to hold your ground, even when you're in a terrible situation, your ability to come up with like advocacy for your team, advocacy for the team that you're working with, understand where people are coming from. It is those soft skills, ability to speak, ability to write and communicate in a way that everybody can understand what you're saying, everybody in the entire team, right? Your ability to bring ideas forward in a way that other people can agree with you, right? That's what makes you go up the ladder very quickly, right? Not everybody wants to code for life. Some people want to code for life, which is great. So you can always go towards your IC level, which is the individual contributor level. But some other people just want to be managers. Some other people want to get to like VP and all of that, right? So soft skills will be very, very important there. Else you will just find yourself stuck in the same position for the longest time. So know thy tools as a craftsman, and this involves the tools we use every day, right? So apart from all the other things I've mentioned that you need to know, like what differentiates a skilled, I don't know if people still use, I still use Vulcanizer because I still drive a car I call a Jalopy. So you don't have money here. So when you see a skilled Vulcanizer, right? Or you see a skilled craftsman, whatever you call them, even somebody that comes to fix your plumber or your air conditioner, right? You can see the difference between people that know how to use their tools, right? Like somebody said something like, somebody comes around to your car and then it looks around for 20 minutes and it just hits something, backham, and it's in, it works, right? And then somebody comes around, hits this one, hits this one, it just try and error until it gets it, right? The difference is in the expertise of the tools, right? So as developers, for example, you're always in your IDEs, you're always in your editors, right? You're always either in your VS Code, Sublime, PHP Storm, WebStorm, PyCharm, right? One of the things one of the things that will be of great benefit to you and help you ramp up in your career very quickly is understanding your editors, right? Understand your editors to the very last, right? Because it makes you faster. I've seen it over time. It makes you faster. Sometimes you don't immediately see the benefits, but if something saves you 15 minutes or 20 minutes every day, in a year, calculate how much that thing has saved you. It's a lot, right? So you also have shortcuts for so many things, right? I've paired with developers and I see the way they still like handle browsers and tabs. And I don't know, like they still use the normal stuff, right? No shortcuts. Sorry. Like, I'm not trying to like, yab anybody here, but like when you know your tools as a craftsman, like you understand your system. So you understand your browsers, you understand the shortcuts, you understand your editors. It helps you to be faster in whatever you're doing. So when you're moving from one tab to another, instead of always coming to click the tab, you're doing a command shift, bracket left or bracket right. Yeah, you're insanely faster than somebody that is still trying to like move to the left, right? You have accomplished 2-3 things faster than the person that still does not understand how to use shortcuts, right? Even when you're debugging like maybe JavaScript, right? When you want to open Chrome DevTools, you can use shortcuts. Like spend some time to have the muscle memory to understand all the shortcuts you need in your editors, in your browsers, even in your system, right? Understand the tools that you need, right? So if you use Laravel a lot, I expect you to understand like all the, different API methods or things, the different ways of going about things that will just make things easier. Then I also expect you to understand your IDE very well. I expect you to understand your browser, the browser you like to use to test your web apps, right? If you're using Android Studio or if you're a mobile developer, I expect you to understand the best, what do you call that stuff that used to run your stuff, your build on this thing, right? I understand you to understand. I expect you to understand those things well. Like
Gradle, it's a Gradle.
Gradle maybe, but
Gradle, yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember now. Maybe it's Gradle, mobile developer. But like, I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. So if you spend time investing in those tools, right? Right. Even in database itself, yeah. Are you using Table Plus? Are you using Workspace? Do you understand it very well? Like, spend time in investing in those tools, even if you need to pay for a course online to learn it, right? There are different courses about these things, how to use VS Code very well, how to use all of those things. When you spend time, like initially it might be hard. It's like also learning to type, right? Remember the years of Mavis Beacon. I don't know how many people use Mavis Beacon, but I tried to use
Mavis
Mavis Beacon
Beacon,
that
yeah.
year. But for some reason, I just never got around it. So when I started learning how to code, I consciously stopped looking at the keyboard. Now, that was very hard for me. That was very hard for me, right? To stop looking at the keyboard, because it means you're going to be significantly slower for a long time until, boom, you become a success overnight. That's what happens, right? So now these days, I type without looking at my keyboard. And if somebody's beside me, it's like, hey, Prosper, how are you doing that? How do you know where all the keys are? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. It's muscle memory, right? I'm so used to doing this now that it just comes easily, right? Like I know where everything is. QWERTY, YU, OPS, DFGH. I know where everything is now, even without looking at the keyboard. That was because I took time, right? Like even when I'm writing an email or everything, then, or even when, you know, when you're coding and you have to not look at it for the first time, it's always incredibly hard because you just want to learn how to code. But then you're learning how to code and you're learning how to type fast, right? But now it's now muscle memory to me. So if I'm trying to write a class, apart from the time I spend thinking, if it's just to write it and come up with something to a solution, I'm very fast about it. Before you know it, I've submitted a PR, before you know it, we've made it in, right? Because I'm very fast at typing. I use Sublime. Please, nobody should yab me here. I know I'm old, but I understand Sublime to the latest. Like I understand every part of Sublime, so I use it. So I understand Sublime very well. I understand how to type very fast, and I understand Laravel a lot. So it's easy for me to just like, you know, come up with something in the backend and like, you know, in 5 minutes I'm done, right? Or I've come up with something, especially if I put my mind to it. That's because I've just tried to know those tools as a craftsman. I've understood them so much that now it just comes as muscle memory. And there are new things that I'm also learning, like, and I just hope like I can learn those things as fast as well. But at the end of the day, know your tools so much, right? If you're in the Laravel ecosystem, there are a lot of tools to learn. If you learn those things, it just helps you become faster. It helps you grow to in your career as a software engineer. So become an authority or is sorry, just let me see what I put here. Become authority on a subject or a domain area. So this is really probably not necessary now, right? But it helps you, right? As you grow as a software engineer, it's like doctors, right? You know, you can have generalist doctors, you can have full stack developers, you can have backend developers, but at the end of the day, as you spend more time in your years as a developer, you start getting to a point where you have so many years of experience, and there are certain, at that point, you really want to be known for something. Like when it comes to this, right? Like I am an expert at this, you know. When it comes to databases, I am an expert. So for the backend developers here, for example, right? You probably want to get to that point where I know backend, you know, you're telling yourself, I know backend, but when it comes to databases, I shine. So scaling databases, running databases in multi-cluster environments, understanding, you know, like cutting down queries to the very barest minimum, like that's my thing. I'm an expert at that, right? So even people will pay top dollar for you to consult for their startups, right? Like this is what we're experiencing right now. We have like 25 million records, or we have like 1 billion records, and like these are the things, like what are the ways to go about it? Like that would be your own your thing, right? And it can be in any area. You can find something like that, right? Hey, I just want to become an authority here. So you dedicate time. You still understand every other thing, you know, but like this part, like you've become an authority. You can also become an authority in like not coding per se, but domain areas. So again, like you can become a fintech junkie. Like when I mean a fintech junkie, is like you're an expert when it comes to like building systems that scale when it comes to like fintech, right? Or you're an expert at building systems that scale when it comes to video and images, anything that has to do, or when it comes to even authentication and federated identity, like they're talking about federated identity, single sign-on, all of those things that has to do with authentication and security, like that's your thing, all right? So the earlier you find that stuff and say, hey, this thing here, comrade, we die here. Like I'm going to be an authority here. So that also helps. It helps you grow, because apart from being a generalist, people already know that, like, okay, when it comes to this person is an expert, right? So we are going to just hire him for this thing, or this person is going to come and join our company here. You know, a very good example that I saw recently was this guy, Nikita. So Nikita is a very young guy that is very is an expert at PHP, right? He's not just PHP, he's an expert at anything that has to do with compilers. So he has been contributing to PHP for the longest time. And when he finished university, all he needed to do, he put out a tweet about like joining a company, and JetBrains had to do everything they needed to do to hire him, right? And if you know JetBrains here, you know what I mean, you have used their IDs before and all of that. Very great company. And that was because he's really just an expert at anything compilers, PHP compilers, not just PHP compilers, because these days he's working on Rust, he's also working on LLVM, you know. So anything that has to do with compilers, abstract syntax trees, just all of those like deep work kind of stuff, that's his thing. So it'd be nice if you can also become an authority on a subject like that. That will help you grow your career as a software engineer. I'm almost done. So finally getting towards the end of this, follow developers that great developers. Use engineering blogs a lot. I do that. There's some blogs I like to recommend: highscalability.com, Uber's engineering blog, Square too has an engineering blog, Slack too has an engineering blog, right? When you look at sometimes you wonder like, what's the framework that Slack uses for their front end, right? Like they wrote about it on their engineering blog. So you can go find out, right? Hey, what's the framework these guys use? Is it even open source? How did they come about it? Why is Slack so fast? What do they use, right? Twitter too, they tweet, they have the database that they use, right? They also write about these things, right? When Twitter implemented the favorite option, where in real time you can see like likes just increasing. Initially it was not like that, right? There was a time it became like that, and they wrote about it, right? So you can go there and study these things and see, wow, okay, so this is how they came about it. This is what they were thinking about. This was the trade-off. So soak yourself in engineering blogs, follow great developers that you know. The good thing about Twitter is that you have developers of all levels, right? You have developers, framework developers, they're very active on Twitter, You see Dan Abramov of React on Twitter. You see Taylor of Laravel. You see the John Resick tweets on Twitter. You see like, even this this Stack Overflow legend on Twitter. Like these guys, like they literally just tweet and talk about the stuff that they work on. So the more you follow them, like the more you can just easily like ramp up on things that might take you time to do. All right, so here, just to conclude this, please work hard, but be smart while you're working hard. Let your 5 years or 8 years or 10 years of experience not be your one year of experience over and over again. Let it be a lot of things. Build many things. Work in different places. Do a lot of things, right? And follow some of the things I've said over the time of this like call. I wrote some things here: customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And some of the things, these are the things you start to discover when you're working in teams or working in like structured environment, right? There are some things that nobody will probably tell you, but you need to know. And a very good example is, no matter how difficult things become, you need to know that customers most times are king, right? So find out how you can collaborate over what a customer needs, right? Over what you think it is right. You can be fighting like, oh, this is the way they're meant to do it, right? If you don't measure the response from your customers and say, hey, but 80% of customers are clamoring for this, you're just going to lose out, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't make you a team player. You're an awesome developer, but nobody wants to work with you, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't submit to the overall goal of the team to make customers happy, right? Number 2, responding to change over following a plan. Every time we come up with a plan about how we want to do things, and guess what? The people that matter, or the people that are responsible for the product that you're building, come tomorrow and say, you know what, you're following another plan, right? It can be very painful, right? But you have to develop skills that allows you to respond to change over just saying, you know what, I'm not doing it again, or if you don't stick to this plan, that is it, right? At the end of the day, you become too rigid. When you become too rigid, nobody wants to work with you, because they know that like you will never like be open to a change concerning whatever you guys are working on, right? Number 3, working software over comprehensive documentation, which is true, right? No matter what technology this tool is built in, it's first working software. Like, let the software work, right? Whether you are doing test-driven development or for some reason it is SACPA driven development because people need to find money to eat, I don't care. As long as the software works, let the software work first, right? And then you can now do other things. So there are a lot of resources I wanted to recommend, but like these are the 3 that I've found useful. Software architecture for developers. You can write it down, or you can take a picture. Technical leadership and the balance with agility by Simon Brown. This is a very good book. If you're looking to become a technical leader, as a software developer, you should read this book. It's very good. Software developers manual. This just helps you ramp up on the soft skills that you need as a software developer. And then the pragmatic programmer for journeyman to master. This is also a very good book. This is an old book now, but like I still find it very useful. So I recommend it for anybody to read. Helps you just ramp up and understand software better. Another book that I would have loved to add here to is designing data intensive applications, right? You need to go through that book, especially if you're a backend developer. So backend, frontend, but mostly backend guys. Go through that book. It's a very like nice and interesting book that helps you understand how systems are built, like better. So I think I've come to the end of this talk, and I hope this has been good enough for you guys. And you know what I say every day on Twitter, right? So yeah, go ahead and be world class.
Thank you so much, Prophet. I'm sure if we give you 3 hours, it wants to be enough. But it was very, very good. Thank you so much. Like, they were so valuable. Like, even when I'm not a dev, I'm like, right, all of these things are just like very good. I totally enjoyed it. So thank you very much, Prosper. Thank you once again for taking the time out. I'm going to quickly run through some questions.
Okay.
And then, we'll go to the questions from the people. I think the most interesting thing I've heard today is support-driven development, SDD. All right. So my first question is, what role does mentoring play in career growth as a software engineer?
I think it plays a great role. It plays a great role. So, but I think my advice is people should not like just die on the so I've seen people always like just, oh, I want you to be my mentor, I want you to be my mentor. But I think what I would recommend is mentorship is great because it allows you to learn faster. But if you don't get a mentor that's willing to mentor you, you can actually just follow people and be mentored from afar. That's what I recommend, right? There are people that I follow on Twitter, or there are people that I follow, not even just on Twitter, but they don't know that I'm like they're mentoring me. I read their books all the time. I read their books, I read their articles, I like their tweets, I go back to what they have written, I study it, I buy their books, I buy their content. When you are buying people's content and stuff, like especially for a particular person, somebody that you keep reading his content over and over, that person is already indirectly mentoring you, right? So that's the approach I would recommend, because you don't need to wait for anybody. You just keep moving, right? So some people just have the excuse that like, oh, I couldn't get a mentor, maybe that's why I'm like this. But that's not an excuse. It just simply means you're somebody that's just lazy, does not want to do anything. And guess what? Thing I've observed about mentors? When you're good yourself, mentors want to mentor you. Because nobody likes stress, right? People like self-starters, people that like to pick themselves up.
Yes, so self-starters.
You don't look for mentors. Mentors start looking for you, because mentors also want to be associated with your success, because they know that with or without them, you will succeed anyways.
You succeed anyways, yeah.
It's good for them to be a part of your journey. So I'd just like to recommend that people should be self-starters, be mentored by people from afar. It doesn't have to be a direct mentorship. Buy their content, read their books, follow them, follow the materials, and then that will do so much for you than just waiting to be mentored one-on-one by somebody.
Good. Thanks so much, Prosper. Let me go to the next question that I have. Now, I'm sure this question is broad in a way, but just try your best to just shorten it to something very where people can quickly understand because of how broad it is. So the question is, what are the challenges that you're most likely to face in your career as a software engineer, and how can you overcome them? Now, you face many challenges, like, career can span over 30, 40, 50 years, right? But like, what are the things that you feel like are the most common challenges that you can face as an engineer, especially when you're just starting out? And what can you do to overcome those challenges?
I think most times when you're just starting out, you're going to make people angry. You're probably going to make people lose. So when I say that, it's because like when you join teams as an intern or as a junior developer, you're going to, at some point, you're going to break things, right? You're going to do things that people just be like, what the hell? What were you thinking of, right? It's going to happen. And like those are some of the major challenges that you probably never forget. Like it's be so embarrassing. Like, how the hell did I even do this, right? But don't beat yourself over it, because those are the things that are required for you to now become better than you were. If you don't make those mistakes, you will never be better, right? That's the way I look at it, right? If you don't, it's the same way people build companies too as well, right? So some people build like 2 or 3 companies. Maybe the first company not successful, second company, and then the third blows up. Or the first is not successful, second, because they've learned, right? They made some ridiculous mistakes in their first company. And then the second one just like, boom.
Welcome back. You were frozen for like some seconds.
Oh, wow. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, so like you're going to make people angry. Sometimes you just build stuff that and you know it will not work, or it will just have so many glitches, and it might, it might just be based on the knowledge you have at that time, or it might just be due to things beyond your control, right? And that's because you are learning to build stuff, right? Or there's just stuff that you've maybe you're probably learning to scale stuff too as well. So those things will happen. And my own recommendation would be like, just learn from it. You don't have to beat yourself over it. Like, don't beat yourself over it. Those are the things that need to happen for you to now learn how to do stuff better, or to maybe build apps at scale or stuff like that. So those are the major things that will happen most times. You make people angry. You probably make people lose money. Maybe you're working in a fintech company and you go and do something funny with your code, and maybe somehow pass through review. So those things will happen. Sometimes you will not feel enough because there will just be other people that are better than you. Like, it happens like that. You just be in an environment that people are just better than you. And no matter how you try to level up, there's just this guy that is just way better, right? So the way I put it in my mind is that there will always be someone better than you, and there will always be someone you're better than. So don't kill yourself, right? Because some other people are praying to be like you as you're praying to be like other people. So those are some of the challenges that you face a lot. Then maybe the final one is you're going to be faced with like a overwhelming like knowledge, right? Like there's some places you just have to work at, and then the knowledge is just too much. It's like, how am I going to even understand the system in the first place? Like, it's too
Where will I
much.
start from?
Where will I start from? It's plenty. All right. So you're going to see that a couple of times. All right. And when those kind of things happen, you just know that you're even in the right environment, because you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn. And even if you don't finish learning the system, you will have learned so much that by the time you move on to your next project or whatever you do, that information will come in handy, right? Also, knowing what to study or you want to learn. I see that get asked a lot by especially a lot of beginner developers. Like, what do I actually need to learn? Like, what's the in thing right now? You're going to come across that a lot, right? And the way I like to say it is, there are trends every single time, right? There are trends. And trends are trends, because people are always learning new things. So if you are confused about what to learn it, try to learn everything. Like, that sounds counterintuitive, but if you're confused, like, oh, you can do design, you can do front end, you can do back end, try to learn as many things as possible. Try your hands on many things. See the one that sticks. So when I say see the one that sticks, is the one that's either maybe easier for you, like you just find enjoyment doing it, or the one that even if it frustrates you for like hours, you still find yourself coming back to that same thing. So there'll be patterns that you pick up from doing all these things. Like, if you now find those patterns, you can now stick with that, right? Stick with that and do that for a while. And then be open to switching. I'm not the kind of person that will say, oh, just do one thing forever. No, be open to switching. You can be a backend developer for years, come back and be a frontend. You can switch again, right? Be as open as possible. It will help you. Don't just say, oh, because I've decided to be a graphic designer, that's what I'm going to be. No, you can be from graphic design, enter backend, learn. Say, okay, this is, I don't want to spend my time in the next 2 years doing this. Switch back again. You can switch to as many things as possible, right? Like, I believe that as human beings, we have the capability to do crazy things, and we don't even use 1% of that yet. So feel free to switch as many times as possible.
Thanks so much, Prosper. So just quickly run through all the questions from the audience. Please, as fast as you can. I know you have limited time as well because you have a meeting. So just very short answers. Now, this one sounds very, very, beginner-ish, but I don't know how much you can help with that. So please, sir, I want to ask, as a beginner in software engineering, what are the requirements I need to know? I'm not sure this question is very well structured, but I don't know if you can just help. What are the requirements I need to know?
I think maybe the person is asking, I mean, this almost feels like a curriculum kind of question. So like, what are the things
perhaps.
Yeah, a curriculum kind of question, like what are the things I actually need to learn to be considered a good software developer, right? So what are the things to have knowledge of, right? And I can easily talk about that. Understand, of course, you start from the basics, right? Your normal decision statement, your if else, your do while, then you go ahead to your algorithms and data structures. Very important, right? Understand your arrays, understand your lists, understand your heaps, your maps, right? Because then depending on how you branch into, start like understand databases. How does databases work, right? Sometimes even start from the beginning. How does the web work, right? When you start from how does the web work, it's going to help you learn a lot of things. So right from when somebody clicks a button on a website, what happens? From the time the person clicks a button to the time the request is served, to the time data is fetched, to the time data comes from the database, to the time it goes over the edge and the network. If you try to understand all of those processes end to end, it will enable you, it will give you a basic understanding of, as a software developer, now these are the different components, moving parts. Now, these are the things I need to learn. I can learn HTML and CSS and JavaScript and focus on the front end and user interfaces for what people use. Or I can decide to be the person that focuses on backend, like what's that stuff? How does data get wrangled? How does data get created? How do you cache data and all of those things? So if you can start from there, it will now give you a better understanding into the things that you need to know to continue your software engineering journey.
All right, so thanks a lot, Prosper. Next question is, how can we get open source projects to contribute to?
I think you can just search on GitHub basically, but I advise that you start from the ones that you learn with. I mean, the ones that you use on a daily basis, right? If you're a software engineer, there are tools that you already use. Like if you're in the JavaScript ecosystem, there are node modules that you already probably install. Find them on GitHub and start contributing to them. If you're in the PHP system, there are composer packages you already install. Find them and start contributing to them. So start from the ones you know and use to probably the ones you don't. But I mean, it makes sense for you to start from the one you know, right? Like you use it every day. So you're like, okay, I want to know how this one works. How does it work under the hood? Then contribute to them, basically.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much, Prosper. Next one is, as regards running a blog, which is better, writing a blog on your personal website or writing on popular websites like LogRocket, sorry.
Man, to be honest, I don't have an answer to this. I think anyone works. It's good to have a personal site because you can keep your data, right? You can keep your data and then you're not afraid that if, like for example, tomorrow LogRocket can shut down, right? And they will take all the articles with them. Those are the cons of LogRocket. But the pros of LogRocket is that your article becomes very popular, right? They have an amazing audience. So anything that you write gets to tons of people at once. Or maybe you write on DevTo or on Hashnode, right? So everything has its pros and cons. It now depends on you to evaluate those pros and cons and say, hey, I think I will go with this, like I prefer this better, right? But I don't have an answer to it. But weigh the pros and cons and then decide what to do.
All right, thanks a lot, Prosper. So next one is, I started my first role in April as a backend developer. My most immediate plans are to learn another language or scale up my algorithm/data structure knowledge. Which would you do if you were in my shoes? Okay.
What do you mean, which will I do? Like, I'm confused about the question.
Let me say it again. So this person started their first role in April as a backend developer. And the most immediate plan is to learn another language or scale up their algorithm/data structures knowledge. So what would you do? Would you rather learn another language or scale up your algorithm/data structures knowledge?
I will scale up my algorithm and data structure knowledge because that is everlasting. Nobody's going to take that away from you. It's the knowledge you get from that you're going to also apply in the new language that you learn. Because if you don't scale up on that and you go to the new language, you still face it, right? You cannot run away from it. right? When it comes to wrangling stuff in the backend, yeah, you deal with a lot of data structures, right? You deal with data structures, you deal with queries, you deal with caching. And it's that knowledge that will help you to build the best and most performance like backend API as you know when you're working. So scale up first instead of like switching languages.
Thanks a lot, Prosper. What would you advise a self-taught developer? What would you advise a self-taught developer been learning for 1 year now to focus on looking for a job or keep learning? So what would you advise someone who just started learning, a self-taught developer who just started learning and has been learning for 1 year so far? Would you advise them to keep looking, to keep learning or start looking for a job?
Look for a job.
Also direct. Sakpa led. Sakpa.
It's easier when you're working with teams. Again, I've seen a lot of people that have never worked in teams before. It's very easy to spot when you start working in your team. So work with teams, understand how teams work. It just makes you a better developer. Because at the end of the day, the greatest software that's been built by man, or the greatest software we see these days, are built in teams, right? The software that powers the rockets, Elon Musk rockets, spaceship, and all that, is teams that build it. It's not one person. One that power the airplanes is teams that build it. So if you don't learn how to build in teams, then there's a disadvantage already that you're giving yourself. Yeah.
Very valuable. So one dealer says, with so much pool of knowledge on internet, it can be hard to filter out the right content from clickbait. What, from your experience, have you found to be the right platforms for finding and learning something new as a developer?
Best platform for finding and learning new things as a developer, right?
Yes.
So I didn't like, okay, for me, mine might be different, but I find frontend masters great for anything that has to do with frontend. Frontend masters is great because they teach a lot of things there, TypeScript. So if you're like looking to ramp up on like specific like framework knowledge and stuff, frontend masters is great for that. Then for scaling, I find highscalability.com very useful, because highscalability.com, they always feature like use cases from all the like several websites that like all these like top platforms that are used by millions and billions of people across the world, to see how they've scaled over time, right? If you are a PHP backend dev, laracast.com is a great resource. Then there are specific courses too, like all these, if you're learning Vue.js, React, they have all those like React Advanced, you have like Vue.jsmastery.com, Vue Mastery, you have all those different courses. Then if you just want to learn general concepts about software development, right? I think you need to follow blogs of like OG developers. That's what I do. So OG developers are people that have been developing for a long time. So they write about different things, right? On their blogs, like experiences they've had, so it's the same way Paul Graham. If you follow anything that has to do with startups or development, Paul Graham writes a lot of things that have to do with building companies, incubating companies. What you can do is to find developers, like maybe authors of frameworks, for example, like look for their blogs and read. You will learn like other things that are not probably framework specific, right? Things to look out for when you're building software, mistakes that they've made before, right? Even Windows developers, like I've seen content, like a very good example is what's his name now? He's a Microsoft developer, Hans Silman. Yeah, look for Hans Silman's blog. That blog is a gold mine, right? I think it's a program manager right now. Microsoft has been there for over 20 years, right? Like these guys have tons of experiences and they write about everything software, right? There was one time I was reading an article about how a certain bug entered Microsoft, and it was so funny because that bug was so funny. And they wrote about like why they made such mistakes and how those mistakes came to be, right? So these are the things that you can learn randomly, or sometimes just go and look for the person that built Redis, the author of Redis, and go and read his blog or go and read his articles that he writes. You will learn a ton about like how these people are thinking about software, right? People that come up with like compilers, Babel, right? People that come up with all of these different huge tools that you use every day. Like read some of the things they write. Like it will help you just understand things better, and like not framework specific or code specific now, but just how to build great software.
Thank you so much, Prosper. We have about 7 or 6 to go. If you had to start your tech career all over again, what would you do differently now?
What would I do differently? I think I was like, I would spend a lot of time. One, I'll work in fintech a lot.
Why?
I don't have fintech experience, and sometimes I wish I had. I work in fintech a lot because like fintech powers the world, right? So from my observation so far, I might be wrong. If you understand how software is built within the fintech industry, it helps you ramp up on a lot of things, like a lot of things that you probably might not see in your daily job. So I'll learn fintech a lot. I'll work in teams that are building fintech software. Uh, I'll also spend a lot of time just learning how compilers work, like compilers, like all those things that make the language that we write. I'll spend a lot of time like learning how they work. Compilers and databases. I wish I understood databases earlier in my career. It's just like later in my career, I started doing like a lot more work on understanding databases. So, but this is just coming from my own perspective, right? Like it doesn't have to be your own template, but these are the things I wish I could learn. I would do differently if I started all over again.
Okay,
Also, I'll come on Twitter a lot. I wish Twitter was there then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just a couple more to go. It always says, I have been finding it very difficult to work with Laravel on Sublime Text. Help would be much appreciated. Are there things you can share, maybe like a link or a link to something that can be helpful to this person?
For what? For Laravel?
Yeah, say I'm having difficulty working with Laravel on Sublime Text.
Very interesting. I think you just go to laracast.com. There is a module about like setting up environments on Sublime and on PHP Storm, I think. I think that the one for Sublime should still be there. There was a time Jeffrey Wade did a recording about it. So that should help you. Or if you can't find that, you can look for, what's this guy's name now? There is this co-contributor, Matt Stauffer, exactly. So Matt Stauffer has a blog, or you can just search for him, and he has some recommendations about setting up Sublime with the tools you need to like succeed with Laravel and PHP. So if you Google him, you should find those resources too as well.
Just want to mention that, the last question I'm seeing now on the Q&A function is the last question I will take. If you put a question after this last question, I most likely will not take it because we've gone way beyond time. Next question is, please, how does one contribute to open source when the person is new into the tech field and has a little experience in the programming language? I think you already discussed this, open source, yeah?
Yeah, I think the only way to gain more experience in the programming language is to contribute.
Yeah, contribute. So the more you write, the better you become.
Exactly. The more you deal with it, the more you understand it. Like it's the same way like some people will say, oh yeah, like how do I become a great a partner or something, husband or whatever. It's by becoming the husband first now. Like you have to start you have to start doing it first. All right. So that's the way I think. The only way you become great at something is just to start doing it. In fact, most of the people, when you look at Babel, the Babel compiler, Babel JS, like the only reason why that Babel became Babel is because the owner, the guy that created it, wanted to learn about compilers. He literally wanted to compile from like, this thing, ES5, ES6 back to ES5, What did he call it then? It was 5 to 6 he called it. It was not Babel. And he just started building and started learning. And the project just became so big. People started contributing to it. So if you see him now, you think that he already had knowledge on compilers. No. Just as he started learning that, he started learning about transpilers. Like, oh, okay, so this can work. Oh, yeah, same thing. So just start it, basically.
Thanks a lot, Prosper. Do you think developers should be learning PHP, Laravel in 2021? Because it seems JavaScript and Python are becoming the only languages being used in recent times.
2021 is a great time to learn PHP. I think it's a great time to learn Laravel too as well. Like,
full stop.
Full stop.
Period. Do you have any written book we can buy? Well,
oh, I wish I did. I would like to make money too, but I don't. I really don't right now.
Maybe sometimes in the future.
Yeah, maybe.
Another question that says, you have talked about finding a niche and also trying out different things. At what point in your career do you start trying to be a generalist and a specialist?
I think most times you become a specialist like maybe after a few years, after starting, because now you've explored different parts and then you have seen the one that you kind of like or the one that you think is in vogue. So where you want to make money, because people have like different reasons for learning different things, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, this is where people are making money, so you want to learn to be an expert. Sometimes you just love it. You want to delve deeper, right? So you become a specialist, right? But at the beginning, I don't think anybody's really, I might be wrong, but I don't think anybody's really a specialist at the beginning when you're just like starting your career, right? At that time, you're learning everything. Like when I was starting, I was learning it. I was learning Java, I was learning PHP, I was learning frontend, I was learning everything, right? And it got to a point I was like, you know what? I don't like, I think I just love backend. Like backend is my thing, right? I'm just going to focus here. It still doesn't mean like you cannot just go back and like pick up front end if you really, really need to do it. Like pick up, ramp up small, and then start building stuff with it. But like at some point, you after a few years, you just go ahead and just like continue and just become a specialist.
Fantastic. So we have come officially to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Prosper, for for your time, for talking to all of us, for sharing valuable insights and tips from your years of experience. And I'm sure everyone in the is actually very grateful as well. So I'm looking at the questions that we even got, shows that they were actually very into this, and we hope, and I'm sure the next time we'll call you, you'll be willing to to answer us, to just share more of the light that you already have with people. Thank you, Prosper. Thank you for coming. I hope you do have an amazing day.